Talking about today.
The usual. Hi, everybody. Welcome to your Colorado Home Advocate Report with your Denver native and Colorado resident, Don Betts. How are you, Don?
Been a little under the weather this week, but I'm about 95% back. So
Glad
here
to
we go.
hear it. With that said, down in the description is information on how to contact Don, or you can type in Home Advocate Advocates and find his information right on the front page. As we start off every week, how are this week's numbers, Don?
Well, interestingly enough, the not normal trend that inventory is going up in the fall continues this week. So the inventory is holding steady, but at the same time, pendings went way up. And so the month of supply actually went from, what is it, overall in Denver Metro went from 1.8 months to 1.1. So we're having a little bit of, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to deal with the interest rate hike situation and buy a house. And I know we've been talking about some of these techniques. One is the buy down, and many of the local mortgage brokers are doing that and promoting the buy downs and getting the sellers to pay for those. So I think that's helping in the current sales. Plus, interesting statistic popped up in that 15% of new mortgage purchase mortgage apps are applying for ARMs. So when you couple those two things together, again, when you need to buy, people are finding ways, even with these interest rates.
Yeah,
We're
that's what I
doing good
that's
here.
that's what I assumed would happen. It's happening throughout the country. What I find most interesting is the huge jump in the option arm rate. And I wonder how much of that I've seen the very aggressive advertising on this topic with the possibilities of refinancing it later on. I've said there's no problem with the option arm if you intend to be in the house long enough to see it through the cycle.
And you can afford it if it
Yeah.
does adjust dramatically. So,
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, click the information in the description, find out what's going on in Denver. With all of that, the fluctuating interest rate, I think, is what's scaring most people. That seems to be my impression this week. The fluctuating rates, and now, as you brilliantly pointed out, the options of still making those deals happen. Do you think once the interest rate sort of flattens or stabilizes a little bit, it'll calm everything down a little bit?
well, it should, but I don't think we're going to see even um, even the rah-rah forecasts of what, 5.5 next year average. I mean, that's still well above where it was. So you're still going to have a lot of people that either refied or purchased in those 3% ranges over the last year or 2 years. And those people are not likely to be sellers
Right.
because so it's a wild card. You know again, people are all over the place in terms of what they think the interest rates are going to do. I mean, look at what the Fed is forecasting with the Fed rates. It's going to go way up, and okay, we're going to ignore those continued rates increases at the Fed level, and we're going to see mortgage rates go down at the same time. I don't know.
I don't know either. But clearly, as that rate goes up, so does the interest rate. Interestingly, at a point where it became a buyer's market, um, it feels like to me on a national level we're trying to get people not to buy houses at the moment. That is, it seems like all the forces are working against people moving real estate and getting it to try to calm down to something reasonable. And back to your point, the Fed calling it a housing recession, or coining that term, also probably has a lot to do with it. The housing and or renting has just gotten too far out of control for average wallets.
And maybe they're not really trying to, stop people from buying. Maybe they're trying to slow it down to allow the inventory side, the supply side to catch up, new home construction, um, and new apartment construction, let those products come online to help the supply. I mean, it's supply and demand, and it
Right.
seems like all we're talking about is demand when we need to talk about supply too. Those things need to work together to solve the problem.
Well, it was inevitable that zero down, interest arms, buy down rates, assumables, all of these different financing options would start coming into play into what is perceived a very hot market, people trying to take advantage of their equity before they miss out on it. There always seems to be a will and a way within a real estate market.
Well, I've been wrong long enough. I actually did a seller financing deal when I purchased a home back in, when was it? In 1980 or some time. Yeah, so we're going to see wraps. We're going to see seller financing. We're going to see all of that stuff come into play. And I know we've talked about it a little bit, and it'd be interesting to get get into the details of that again, and see how that can work. Because like I said, those people that bought paid a lot of money for a home, but still have that great interest rate, 2.75 or some crazy number like that. They're and they need to sell for some reason, or they want to sell, then they're stuck because they have to look at the realities of the financing of their replacement property. And at some level, then, well, okay, that interest rate mortgage becomes a very attractive thing for their buyer. So how do we do it? Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it keeps propelling the market forward. And I don't know what the whole end game of this is. Is it evictions coming on the market? Is it new homes coming on the market? There almost has to be a give that adjusts these values at some point.
Yeah. And,
Which
and,
takes us, yeah, go ahead.
and one thing that annoys me about the interest rate situation is that these higher rates are affecting the builders. So the it's not just the buyers. The most builders have lines of credit or construction loans that so their costs of doing business to provide the inventory, the supply side, is going up at the same time. So at some level, these interest rates are counterproductive to the overall balance between buyers and sellers in the residential real estate market. But that's my opinion. I could
No,
be
and I think it's for anybody watching this, this is why it's imperative to not have somebody who hasn't experienced these kinds of markets or people who are out of touch with this market. The point of a video like this is you want to talk to Don, period. If you're thinking of buying or selling, because there's a lot going on here and there's a lot of protection that is necessary for someone buying or even someone selling at this point. You don't want to sell it for less. Fine, you're going to have to put some closing costs in to bring the price. There's a lot going on here that a
Yes.
standard new agent would never be able to comprehend,
Yes.
or for that matter, convey with the appropriate importance that it is. Use the information in the description. Give Don a call. Send him an email. He'll be happy to talk to you about your property, buying, selling, anything, any questions you have. Is there anything you'd like to add this week?
Oh, just that we continue to see anecdotally and lots of price reductions here in the Denver metro area. So I think the word that I used a couple weeks ago, the froth that we had in the market in this spring is finally, coming off. And some sellers are now realizing that, they've missed that market, but it's still strong. Let's be realistic about pricing. Let's price it properly, given the recent history, not just last spring, but this summer. And you'll be successful in getting a good price for your property if you price it correctly, and it'll sell quick.